Hello, everyone. My name is Sheridan-Reinhuber. I am professor of piano at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, and I have with me today two of my absolute favorite people. First of all, my wife, Sheridan-Reinhuber, who is sitting right next to me, not socially distant. And then there's Brigitte Smith, who is Dawn's co-director at San Marcos High School, the choir program. And she is socially distant from us in her house. We are basically doing a Zoom meeting and recording it. We tried to stream it through Facebook Live, and unfortunately that didn't work. So we're doing it this way. And we're going to post this video to our Tamuk music Facebook group so that the students can watch it and whoever else wants to. Anyway.
You can always tell them that if they have any questions that pop up while they're listening to us chat, they could always email you.
Yes, they can. They can email us and, send us messages and all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's several questions in one. First of all, I think that you need to figure out if your admin, if they don't understand what it is you do and what it is the program is supposed to be doing, it's up to you to advocate for yourself and for your kids. So learning how to advocate, that's our dog, learning how to advocate for your program and for your students is number one. Like, it's really an important step in getting people to listen, getting help, getting the support you need. Getting your parents, the students' parents involved helps tremendously, because when they speak, they can help speak for you, so it doesn't always sound like you're tooting your own horn. But happy students make for happy teachers, and that makes for happy admin as well. And
happy parents.
Yeah, and just making sure that, what it is you want for your program also aligns with like campus goals and stuff. You have to bloom where you're planted. You have to learn how to bloom where you're planted and work with what you have and maximize all resources before you start asking for things that they might not understand why you need.
Mm-hmm.
I think that showing evidence of maximizing all your resources already is important to starting that conversation. Wouldn't you agree, Brigitte?
Yeah, I would say that. Sorry, I have a fly that's bothering me. I would say that both she and I have worked with a plethora of different kinds of administration. Some who have completely understand what it is that we do, which is very rare. Some who maybe don't understand, but know that we are doing something worthy. And then some that don't have a clue. And I would say that most of the ones that people end up working for are the ones that don't have a clue, and ones that don't have a clue but understand that what you do matters.
They're willing to learn, or
yeah. And so
right now we're very
blessed.
We're very blessed. We actually have an admin, former choir teacher.
I would say that one of the important things is that you know how to frame your requests so that it comes across as this is what the students need, as opposed to this is what I need.
And before you start even asking for anything, really, let's say you step into a program that's brand new, or maybe it's kind of gone downhill, or or whatever. You need to assess where you are at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And start from what do I 100% need to be successful? And when I say that, better than what it was, because you're not going to walk into any program and go, I need this, 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 and this, and then they're just going to give it to you, especially if they're used to having someone prior to you who hasn't asked for anything, who didn't really make any waves. Maybe the program was just kind of status quo, didn't really make a splash yet, the first thing that you have to do is make music and bond with the kids and make the kids think that it's worthy of buying into, because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Like the principal or whoever is not going to care unless they see change in the kids, because they may not have known that it wasn't a very good program before, that it was dying. They maybe just didn't notice.
Yeah.
And because they've never seen it at its best.
Well,
And that's what I stepped into. I stepped into, and Dawn too, at Miller, probably even more so. I stepped into a program that hadn't been at the middle school for several years. So the choir room was being used as the extra band hall, really. And interestingly enough, by my now husband, who has also had a huge education, because he was so irritated that I was coming in and taking over the choir room and like teaching choir in it.
So
It's like, where am I going to have sectional?
There also, Nathan Rolfe was the band director at Goodnight Middle School, and Brigitte came in as the choir director, and the inevitable happens. They fell in love, got married, had Mason, and now they were a big happy family at San Marcos High School.
another tale of music bringing people together.
There you go, exactly. Yeah.
It was all scandalous. So I just know, like, a lot of principals, if no one is griping about you, the parents seem to be fine, they're going to listen to you more.
Yeah.
And like, you just don't know, like, little things make such a big difference. Just being present, being a face of the school, and being okay with that. I remember there was a question in my interview, I think the one for high school, that was talking about, like, how do you put yourself out there and your kids, and really any kind of organization who is a performing group, whether it's sports, whether it's band, whether it's choir, you are constantly advertising that school.
Cool. Yep.
And principals listen to that. They are going to listen to you more if you're getting positive press, and you would be so shocked at the things that you can spin into positive press. You know, like, I know that we did this caroling thing, and it always, like, made the front page news, like, and it wasn't even anything special. Like, we just caroled in the stairwell before the break, and the whole news team was there, and we gave snacks, and that was just amazing, you know. And so, but that whole event,
That she would always say, that says nothing succeeds like success.
Yes.
it's so true. And then you can go in and start to ask for your big ticket items, you know. And I would say that I think that it took me a little bit longer to figure this out. You have to remember, when I first started to teach, I was 24. And then when Dawn came into teaching choir, she was in her 30s. So she had a little bit more time to figure it out, you know, as far as how to talk to others. And I think that there were times where I went in going, like, I need this. And I was told no. And I started to learn how to play the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then suddenly things started to happen, and I started to get the things that I asked for. If
I would say number one is always safety.
Yes.
The thing is that we like, the first really big thing that we got at Miller was risers, because there were only these built-in ones, and we finagled a way to get rid of those. But kids need risers to stand on, and the risers themselves need to be safe. And the nightmare risers that still, unfortunately, some of our colleagues have to work with are the ones without the back that just kind of collapse. That, I don't know how more fingers have not been lost with the setting up of those. And so you really need risers and shells. That's as far as, like, and a piano. You need that, and you need some music stands. those are your basic setup for what a choir room needs. And when Miller opened, there wasn't even a piano.
Nope.
They were using the choir room for a broken furniture depot and would put the ISS, the in-school suspension kids, in there sometimes. So it was not being used for what it was supposed to be used. Um, and so setting up structure. And so if you are a new director, and I know that this is kind of the reason for this talk, is that we're trying to give advice to like young directors. If you're a young director and you are fortunate enough to go into a school and start a program or try to revive a program, or you've been charged maybe with growing a program, sometimes your main concern is keeping a program afloat. I mean, you really should be asking in your interview, like, what is the goal for the program immediately, so that way you know with what you're stepping into. And hopefully you'll have those questions answered in an honest way so that you know what your main focus should be. But like safety and your basic setup, just so that the kids have the structure and that they understand what you need to start working.
Do you need music?
Well, yeah, that comes later. But at like the middle school, for example, because of the fact that it had been rezoned and the program was growing, all of the sheet music was being housed at the high school or at Goodnight, which was the high school campus before the new high school was built. So it's just a lot of like, wait, where is what? And, things were being built without like complete restructuring, so that life goes on and you have to start teaching. And we're still trying to catch up with the library in our school.
Yeah.
Well, just like to add on onto that. So when I came into the not high school, when I went to the middle school, I brought all the stuff with me from the intermediate school, and that's why I had a piano, because I just took that. Like, I didn't ask. I was like, I need one here. And then
I remember though that sorry. Yeah, I remember that Helen actually bought two pianos, one for each middle school, didn't she?
yes,
Yeah.
she ended up yeah. And but we didn't know that was going to happen yet. So that's why there are two there. Well, there's actually three, but one of them is very sad and very scary. So it took me, I want to say, like 5 years to sort through years and years of things that had just been shoved into boxes. And but that was not my first step, like I put that all aside, because yes, that stuff matters, but when I got to get into the choir room, it was maybe a couple weeks before school started. And so I just had to fix it to where it was going to be functioning and safe and all that other stuff, like when the kids walked in,
Yeah. And it takes a while to set up your room optimally. Like, I think that's really important to know for all young teachers, is that you need to have like a workflow. You need to have a plan for a workflow. What do the kids see when they first walk in the room? Is it going to be an inviting space? Do they know where to go? Are they going to have a place to put folders or pick up folders? Is that easily accessible? Will it cause traffic jams? Where do you want them to put their stuff? So that their bags aren't being stepped on or kicked around. Do you want what do you want their focal point to be when they are on the risers looking at you? If they're not looking at you, are they looking at a board? Are they looking at posters? Are they looking at instructional posters or motivational posters? All right, what do you want them to be looking at when they're sitting straight ahead if they zone out? And I just remember in high school, my director had the solfege letter front and center, so that way if I did zone out, that's what I would be looking at. So when you come to, you go, what am I looking at? And you start to actually think about the things you're sort of mindlessly staring at. And so I know that Brigitte and I have talked about, like, the setup and what we want where and what makes sense where. And so that's kind of the first thing you do, is you go in there, you say, what do I have to work with? What's the layout? And put yourself in and walk through it. Like, I feel so much better because we just took our, it's been a long journey to get to starting out as a beginning teacher to bringing a choir to TMEA, which we were very blessed to be able to do this year, Brigitte and I, with our varsity men's choir. And literally up until the day before we left, we feel like we're like getting them down from the rafters and they're hanging from lighting fixtures. And I just, yeah, this was a
if anyone had been in that warm-up room, there actually were a few people in there.
Yep.
It wasn't any different. It wasn't any different. And you really want it to be different, but it's not going to be different.
No.
Like, this is it, guys, and they're still being stupid guys,
So
But we love them.
yes, of course we do. So my next thing would be what I always admire about the two of you is how you're able to build relationships with anybody. You are relatable to anybody. You can relate to anybody, whether it is the superintendent, the principal, the janitor, a whiny freshman girl, a hormonal 10th grader. You can relate to all of them. How do you do that? I sometimes, I'm at the high school quite a bit with you guys, and sometimes I just want to strangle a kid, and I would go to jail, and you are still not in jail, both of you. How do you do that?
I think probably just the word that I think is honesty and authenticity.
Yeah.
They, like when you said that you wanted to strangle someone, I can't tell you how many times I have said that to them.
Yeah.
It's good for them to know. And I used to joke a lot. I'm like, I just want to hit you. And like, hold on, I'm doing it now in my head. Feels great, so that they understand that you get irritated with them and you're human too,
Yeah.
But I think that kids can smell it out when you're being fake with them, especially younger kids. Middle school kids, I feel like are like bloodhounds when it comes to fear, when it comes to being fake and not honest. They sniff it out in a second because they are in a moment.
Some are quicker at it, but the ones that are like that see through you, they inform the others if you're trying to like pull the wool over anybody's eyes. And at the high school level, I feel like they're very good at just like, you didn't mean what you just said, or you're just trying to smooth this over, and or you're following a policy you don't agree with or whatever. And so I think that it's very important. I think honesty is the key word. Being honest, keeping it real, meeting them where they are, taking their. It's hard sometimes too because they get very melodramatic too sometimes about things that are bothering them. And I think that we're both very good at remembering what it was like to feel like a kid and be a teenager and go, this is their whole life. And to discount their feelings and not take seriously what they're feeling, you wouldn't dare sit across from your boss or from the superintendent and go, I don't agree with that. I think you're being childish. So, and it's really just treating someone like the human being they are, regardless of their age. And, some things you have to kind of like try to wrap up and keep short for their sake and yours, that you can keep working. But making everybody reminding constantly, I said this last week to Chris in that interview, kind of trying to keep everybody's eye on the goal. And remind everyone of what your common goal is, and that common goal sometimes needs to be in the forefront as opposed to what your personal drama is.
The other thing that I'm always so amazed is how peaceful your choir room is in terms of conflict. And I know that is not necessarily a natural state of being in a public school, where there's cliques and groups and even gangs and what have you. And somehow within the choir room, and even in some of the more rambunctious classes, that doesn't seem to play a role anymore. And how do you achieve that? How do you get this kind of atmosphere that everybody feels like they're being heard and seen, and when there is a conflict that they trust you to help them resolve it? That is always really quite stunning when I see that happening.
I just say that we talk about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's not a day that goes by where we don't talk about seeing everyone, respecting everyone's place in the group, and then living up to that as a human, looking at every child and really seeing them, even if they don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
I've looked at kids and I've said, I see you. You're better than what you think. And
sometimes than you're acting.
Yes, yeah. And you have something to offer. And I can say that keeping the peace is a lot easier when there's two. It is much harder to do that when there's one.
Well, and I don't want to say that there's never conflict. There is conflict.
Definitely conflict.
But you manage always to keep it. I mean, you know, no blood has been drawn yet.
Yeah.
I think that again, reacting in a way that you remind everybody that you're there to achieve a common goal, and the common goal is music, and music that's already beautiful, but that you can make more beautiful just for the sake of doing that, to make the world a better place and to make us all better humans. But if you just because you need them to set aside the drama for the sake of the work, I think that's a really important lesson that they need to learn anyway. For, you know, later on in life when we have a job, we still have to show up at our job even if everything isn't 100% in our personal lives. So living that, you know, living the example for them, and proving on a personal level, like with she and I, that we communicate, and sometimes we even communicate something right in front of them so that they can see the process of us working something out. Or you know, we say jokingly sometimes, like, we're going to make y'all hug this out or talk it out, and we make them do that.
Yeah.
But just not in the middle of rehearsal. You know, let's do this afterwards. And then and if for some reason something does impede on rehearsal time, we immediately talk about it the next time and say, we're so sorry that took away from it, but we could tell
it needed to be done.
It needed to be done. And you're teaching human beings. You're not just teaching your minions. You're teaching kids who come with their own agenda every day and their own needs. And to remind yourself that you're teaching students and not music. You're teaching music to students, but you're teaching students. Mm-hmm. And I know that sometimes I think to myself, God, I did not sign up for this, you know, when you're like filling out the 100th form and having to do whatever, you know, professional development that you don't think pertains to you. That's a means to an end. That's like, you have to do those things so that you can go teach those students.
I do want to add, when you were talking about being like modeling the way that you want them to act, it's sometimes it can be hard because there are days, I know both you and I both have come up to teach and like our head hurts. Something just happened in our family where it, like I would rather be in my bed sleeping, you know, because I don't feel well or whatever. And, but we do it. We fake that energy. I feel like I am the world's best at faking energy. I don't know, you know, I just have all, and I think that you really learn how to do that when you teach middle school, you know.
Oh yeah.
And,
middle school is sort of the ground. The book. Yeah. Quite a boot camp. Teach middle school for 2 years.
I would say any high school teacher needs to know what it's like to teach middle school. It made me such a better teacher once I taught middle school for a while. And also then I felt like I knew what I needed to say in order to mentor a high school teacher, to be able to mentor in middle school. Just even if you didn't have a better idea, just that they knew you knew how they felt.
Yeah. But I think that there can be days where it's really easy to get selfish. We all have them. It's a constant battle, but the kids will never you can never look at them and be like, why don't you understand me right this second? Why don't you understand that I'm having a bad day too? And like, they're not going to pat you on the back for it, because you're the grown up. Even if you just want to, it just makes you so angry that this kid is, for the 4th day in a row, not doing what he's supposed to be doing because he's having a bad day, or because he's just really missing the girlfriend that dumped him. And it's easy to get irritated and be like, I have a horrible headache and I'm still here doing it for you, you know. But they're still kids up until age 18. They are still kids, and it is the time in their life where is it the id?
Yeah.
Isn't that is the prominent in their brain? What did you say?
Even in college, they can still be kids up to the age of 24, 25. Yeah. So the last thing I think I want to ask you about is, you know, I've known you both for, well, I've known you for 30 years. I've known you for 13. You are both very successful, very, very good at what you do. You both ran your own programs, and all of a sudden you have these two very, very strong personalities that have to make it work together. And the last thing about what I admire about you is that with all the strengths that you have individually as people, you have become really, really close friends. And that is really not necessarily, you know, that's
not a given.
not a given, because you guys spend more time with each other than Dawn and I spend together.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make that work? Because I know that, you know, for 85% your ideas pretty much align, but there are those 15% where they don't, and you have to work it out. And you're both strong-headed, and so how do you make that work?
Well, first,
Well,
I want to say something. This social distancing thing is really hard, and I really miss you.
I miss you too. I was like getting all teary-eyed just now, so I have to like keep it together because I haven't worn makeup in a while. So, you know, I think that I want everyone to know, whoever watches this, is that this is not the norm. It should be. I really do think so. And I've seen colleagues and friends who've had to work with people that are awful to them, who have or who they just don't align, or there's a power struggle all the time. And I don't know how I could go into a room and make music with someone like that. It would not fulfill me. And I'm not going to say that we haven't had our struggles, because we totally have.
Sure.
And I think that
we're both aware the fact that the other one is struggling, and then we want to help. Like, we want to make it better.
And I think that because like any time that I have to bring up something with Dawn that's bothering me, or it may be I don't agree with it, I always have this first feeling of, I don't want to have this conversation because it feels negative, you know. It's kind of like even it's kind of like a spousal thing. I know that's weird, but it really is. Like,
Work-wise.
I mean, like if I want to talk to my husband about a serious issue, you know, you always started off with, okay, how am I going to bring this up? But to trust the other person and to have those difficult conversations. And I think that's really hard to say, like, I need to tell someone this. I need, like, anytime something isn't going the way that I think it should, or if there's any kind of conflict, I bring it up, because I don't want to harbor anything. I don't want to, I just want peace, and I want it to flow well. But I can say, this is what your goal should be. You don't have to be best friends with them,
right?
But you need to be respected. And if you're ever in a role to mentor someone, to where you're the older one mentoring the person that has been just hired and they're brand new or whatever, to still recognize that even first year choir directors have something to teach you.
Oh, for sure.
To not treat anyone differently because they haven't had 13, 14 years experience doing it.
I
And
think that kind of leveled the playing field a little bit with us, that I started later too.
Mhm.
We have like the exact same amount of years of teaching what we're doing right now. It's just that I was just I just got a later start, and I had, but that was kind of cool because we both sort of brought the same amount of years, but you had experiences that I didn't have, and I had experiences you didn't have. So I think that just remembering that, like you said, just because someone's younger than you doesn't mean that they can't teach you something.
Yeah.
And take whatever experiences they have, and like try to really milk it, and like get as much of it out of it as you possibly can, because you bring something to the table that I don't have. And I was able to bring other things that you hadn't experienced. So I think that it's kind of best of both worlds with us.
Yeah. And I sometimes I can struggle with wanting constantly to be better at things than I am, and
Don't we all?
and there are just some things that you do better than me. And I know you had said on the other interview, like, you can't be good at everything all at once,
Right.
and then I said, or ever, I do think that our age difference, what you bring that I have learned a lot from you is talking to others, talking to grown-ups, because when you're 24 and you're talking to someone who's 50 and trying to sound professional, that can be scary, because sometimes you go through your first few years and you feel like a fake, because you're like, wait, hold on, I'm actually grown. And even as someone that had a kid, really.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, the fact that someone else thinks of you as grown even though you don't feel grown. That's a
Yeah.
that's a big like hurdle you have to get over in your own head when you're young.
I did like having Cayden really young I felt grown, but at the same time, when he wasn't around me, I was still the same age as all of my other classmates,
Yeah.
I was still like on the path. I was like maybe a year older because I took a little bit longer, but I still like wanted to do the 21-year-old things. And I still had a 24-year-old mind when I first started to teach, whether I had a kid or not. And so, yeah, like I just remember trying to be professional, trying to act like I knew what I was saying and doing. And I think that that when you start to teach, you have to own that.
Yeah.
And there are things that you're going to know more of because you're so close to it. You're so close in the age, and you just finished school. So like you bring something, and that's why people hire young educators.
Yeah.
Because if we only hired people with 10 plus years, we would never, we would constantly just like stagnate,
Well, and at some point the profession would die out because if you don't hire, if you don't let.
Yeah.
I'm always blown away by some of our students. What they bring to the tables. Some of them, as of the freshman year, ideas that they have, creativity that they have, information that they have that I, as a white-haired 55-year-old, just don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And if I always say, if I don't learn as much as my students from what I do, then I'm going to quit, because I really have the feeling that I'm constantly learning from my students, from my colleagues, from you guys. That's why I love being there, among other things.
I think we should end this on a positive note.
Absolutely.
Okay, and like an encouraging note. And so my little message to any students that might listen to this is just that you don't know what you can or can't do until you've tried to do it. And you don't even know what your strengths are yet until you've tried them out and realized, hey, this comes naturally. So whatever those are, take stock of them. Don't discount them. Make sure that you know that you're really good at that, and then don't just focus on the things you're not good at, because you're going to need those days where you're like, I got this in the bag. I know how to do this. So that's what my whole lesson's going to center around today, because I need a break from the learning curve, because your whole first couple of years is nothing but a learning curve. And when you realize that there are things that you're not good at, that doesn't make you a bad teacher. That just gives you, those are your areas for growth.
That makes you human.
Yes, yeah. And we all have areas for growth. When in the last lesson, in the last interview with Chris, when he asked us these things, I mean, it took me a really long time to comfortably program a piece from the Renaissance in any of my concert programs, because I was nervous about whether or not I could do it justice. And I felt like I needed some more research and some experience with other things first. So fine, your choir just doesn't sing that for a while until you feel comfortable with that. And you know, you need to meet your kids where they're at and do what they need, but you also need to do what you need for you.
Yeah. I think if I wanted to say anything that, these are my few words of wisdom that I try to tell everyone when they student teach with us. I'm going to give myself credit for this, and then I'm going to tell everyone to not be scared to put yourself out there. When I first started to teach middle school, I was so overwhelmed with what I thought I didn't know. And so I used that to push me to reach out to others and say, this isn't working, help. And I called people. I called someone that I had never even met before and said, hey, can you tell me about the boy's voice? Like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it doing this? And I remember thinking that I couldn't do things. Like, I remember sitting in my first region meeting, watching the region chair going, well, I could never be region chair. And then it was like 5-6 years later, I was the one running the meeting, and but you can't get there unless you put yourself out there, be okay with the fact that you're still learning.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to kids, dealing with kids, never discount any child, as hard as it may be. When they come up to you and they say, I want to join choir again, you can't look at them and say, no, you're a complete turd, even though that may be what you're thinking. You have to have an open, honest conversation with them. But I have seen kids
been a turd, but let's let you show me you've changed.
You have to be willing to wipe the slate clean, because I have seen kids flip completely and have been amazing. And on the same count, like on the same flip side, I've seen some amazing kids who have just not been awesome after a while. So you can't count on a kid like, oh, well, my tenor section will be fine because of so-and-so. Well, you know what, if so-and-so goes through a bad breakup and they start to, tune out of everything, you just don't know. And so give credit to every child. And at the same time, it's just this constant balance. That's the more that the older that I get, the more I realize that your life is constantly learning how to balance things. And it's like your life is just a balance beam, and you're trying really hard to not fall off either way.
And you will.
And that changes.
It's just
and so
fun.
Yeah. Not trying. I think one of the faults of a lot of young educators, me too, was I wanted to save every kid. I was like, let's save them all. And I I really put some of my other kids through some not good times, because I wanted to give this kid a 25,000th chance. You have to learn when to let a kid go and when to bring them back, and and that all takes time. But anyway, like, just never discount any kid. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and you can't save them all. So
okay,
right there.
Well, okay. Well, thank you both so much. This has been a lot of fun, And yeah, I'm going to. We're recording this on Zoom, and then hopefully we will publish it and YouTube and send out the link to our students, and then they can watch it. Yeah. Thank you both so much. It's been a pleasure showing you off. And well, I will see you right now, and I will see you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Nice.
Okay, Dawn, I'm going to call you. Okay.
Call me.